Guys, what is going on, bro? I don't even know anymore. It seems like the entire world is being affected by some form of illegal immigrants, guys. It's like some form of it. Okay, we're talking about multiple countries in Africa. Okay, we're also talking about the UK. We're also talking about the United States of America, Canada, and now apparently Australia. Guys, this is brand new information. I didn't know that was a thing down there, down under. Right? We're about to find out. This is a Suggestion VA channel member. Let's jump into it.
Tens of thousands of people marched in cities across Australia today to show their pride in Australia and to call for a stop to mass immigration.
The government's supposed to work for us, the people. We don't want half there not going on, so we're making a stand today to make things right.
I don't understand this.
You've got to go.
Yeah, Australians turned out in force despite the fear-mongering from politicians and the media.
Australia is a nation of foreigners, just like that wonderful song says. From all the lands on earth we come. And Australia isn't a place where we walk with Nazis. Australia is a place that went to war with Nazis.
We absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. It is not about increasing social harmony. We think, and I think the vast majority of the Australians think that multiculturalism has been a good thing for our country.
Labor politicians should have had more faith in their fellow Australians. When neo-Nazi leader Jack Eltis was given the microphone in Sydney, large numbers of people booed and many left the event.
At one point in Melbourne, pro-Australia protesters even came face-to-face with pro-Palestinian protesters. Have a look.
Whoa. Oh, geez.
There's a lot to unpack in the events of today, but let's
There's
start with the
guys.
key concerns, it seems, of the majority of people who marched around Australia. They're upset that mass immigration has replaced controlled immigration. There was no one that I heard or saw who was anti-immigration. They were anti-mass immigration. And the other concern is that multiculturalism has clearly replaced assimilation. As a result, our country is changing. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. We've got ethnic enclaves around the country. We've got civil unrest every weekend, pro-Palestinian protests. Crime is clearly up as a result of mass immigration in certain areas. And we're continually told on top of that Australia is built on stolen land and that our history is something to be ashamed of. Is it any wonder then that so many regular mums, dads are upset? For Murray Watt to come on Sky News this morning and say that these protests were, just as a broad brushstroke, hateful and divisive is disingenuous.
Okay, guys, so this is basically the same exact story that's being told in all these other countries, by the sound of it here. Mass immigration is absolutely affecting people and obviously altering the culture that they hold so near and dear to them. So, for example, even in the United States of America, we have a problem with immigrants coming into the country and not assimilating to our culture, right? The same thing's happening in the UK. They're coming into the UK and not assimilating to the culture. Like, understand this here, guys. They're attempting to maintain a culture that they themselves have run from, all right, by coming into a brand new culture of people who are completely satisfied with their culture. How do we know that? They're not running from their culture. And you're bringing your culture to their culture. And of course, the people that are like, bro, I wouldn't want to live in your country. So why are you bringing it to me? Right? By creating like these, like insert whatever country's name town. Right? Like little, name a city, name a country, town. You get what I'm saying here, guys? That's what it is here. And I understand it. Right? I mean, why? I don't want to live there. Okay. Why are you bringing it to me? The problem is assimilation.
As a broad brushstroke, hateful and divisive is disingenuous. He knows very well that the vast majority of people are not at all hateful. But even Brad Batten, the Victorian opposition leader, said anyone who's anti-immigration is racist. Well, that's the most stupid thing to say. Immigration is a policy. It's not an indictment on a certain ethnic group. You could be anti-immigration without being racist. And so for the Victorian opposition leader to just write off large numbers of people like that is just silly. But I do understand why politicians, maybe Brad Batten, would be nervous about picking a side in this fight because, as we said, these protests were marred by neo-Nazis getting involved and the lack of leadership in terms of who's running these things. That would be a concern for people as well. So I can understand the reluctance of politicians to get involved, but to dismiss it as hateful and divisive...
What, to get involved in the march, or you're talking about the policy in general?
To get involved in the march.
OK, no, that I can understand. From what I observed, or everything that I've seen today, there wasn't a lot of neo-Nazis at these protests. The majority of people at these protests were everyday Aussies who have, quite frankly, had a gutful of this country being overrun by absolute madness, out of control, runaway immigration policy. I mean, we've had more than 1.1 million immigrants come into this country since Labor was elected. And let's be realistic, but we can't sugarcoat this, James. There have been people who've brought into this country, some who hate us, some who hate our values, some who have absolutely no interest in assimilating in this country. So I say good on those people for getting out there and taking a stand. In fact, I think this marks a pivotal moment. I was actually heartened to see all of those Australian flags. People had them draped over them. They were waving them proudly. Thank goodness, finally, we're seeing some Australian pride.
Well, where was Murray, calling out the pro-Palestinian rallies as hateful and divisive?
Well,
but if an Aussie flag gets waved, all of a sudden it's an extremist behaviour.
And this is the point I want to make.
That's crazy.
Because let's be...
Patriotism is considered extremism in Australia? Is that a thing? Guys, listen, that's wild, right? Listen, I love my country. I love my flag, right? I love my flag. A whole lot. I fly a gigantic one outside my house.
Honest, it is not hateful to wave the Australian flag.
Of course not.
It is not hateful to love your country. It is not hateful to be proud of your country. Yet you've got the left who peddle this ridiculous narrative that it's racist to wave the Australian flag. Honestly, it's like they tie themselves in knots of guilt constantly. The absolute self-loathing is out of control. And secondly, it's also not hateful to bring up the fact that people are worried about the state of this country when you've got flags of terror groups being waved so brazenly down the Harbour Bridge, or we saw what happened at the Sydney Opera House days after the Hamas attacks. And I find it appalling that the media are just writing today with this neo-Nazi line, marred by neo-Nazis. Yes, I agree that there were neo-Nazis. I do agree, and I condemn that. It is absolutely abhorrent. We should all be condemning that.
But that's what the media does, right?
But the point of this...
The media look for conflict.
They do, but the majority... Why wouldn't you write the article? Tens of thousands of people marching for Australia, proud of this country. It just baffles me.
Because that's not going to sell papers. It's the conflict that sells.
And the other thing I would say is that I also don't think it's unfair to question the types of people we are bringing into this country, especially those who come from places whose values are incompatible with Western democracies, and that is not racist to talk about, and you're not a bigot to bring it up.
So everything you've said is correct. The question, though, is where does this movement go? So as a result of today, clearly a big movement. First question, do politicians listen, or do they continue to deride these people? If they deride them and demonise them, then we'll see these marches increase and continue, which raises my second question, and that's the question of leadership. We don't have a Nigel Farage in this country to lead a pro-Australian movement, which leaves it open to either idiots leading the movement. I don't know how a neo-Nazi was given a microphone in Sydney.
I agree, appalling.
That was just a stupid decision. Someone messed up badly there. And so there's either that or you get radicals taking hold of the movement. So those are questions that I'm interested to see what happens moving forward.
Leading up to the last election, migration was not front and centre. Actually, in the last two elections, migration has not been front and centre. Yeah. It is a debate that both sides of politics seem to shy away from.
Correct.
You will recall that Peter Dutton did make that pledge to cap migration numbers at a certain amount, which, by the way, leading economists, for example, Leith Van Onselen, said it's simply not going to be enough because given the housing crisis, we need to really dramatically scale it back. But they did not prosecute. The coalition were too scared to go that further on. And I can honestly say, and we've got Pauline Hanson coming up on the show tonight.
They're losing numbers to One Nation because they talk about it.
Exactly. The only party that is willing to prosecute this argument, and I maintain it is not racist to talk about migration and you're not a bigot to bring it up, but political parties shy away from it. Forget Labor. They're not going to do anything because high migration actually suits Labor politically, but they're not going to do anything about it. It is up to the coalition to prosecute this, and I do not think that they will.
And in terms of these marches and where they go, and if they get ugly, the fault is not primarily the marchers, it's our mainstream politicians, Labor and Liberal, who refuse to have the conversation.
Yeah.
If you end up with chaos on the streets, it's the fault of politicians who won't allow a conversation. That's the big
I
issue.
completely agree. Meanwhile,
That's valid.
Australia
That
just
feels
keeps
valid.
getting bigger and bigger. The housing crisis is a mess, and yet here we are today.
But first,
Yeah, guys, listen. The fact that they're even, I guess, deciding to talk about the housing out there, that's a big issue everywhere. But I do know that in Australia, it is absolutely crazy, guys. I don't think people can afford houses there. I don't think so, like at all. Like it's like nearly impossible based off of the amount of money that's required. Now, when you start adding more people into the mix of things, when you're already suffering through some type of housing crisis, the law of supply and demand basically dictates that there are going to be more people looking for that one thing. So the price of that one asset specifically is going to start doing what? Rising. Right. So if you're already suffering from that, right, while your legitimate country's cultural identity is starting to disappear, I can imagine how that could be somewhat stressful for the majority of people that are experiencing that thing on a day-to-day, guys. Right? I don't really sense the racism aspect of it. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I get it. No, there are a group of people, absolutely, that are going to basically say that that is what it is because they want to dismiss the fact that, bro, I like it how it is. Does that make any sense? I like it. I like the fact that I go down the street and everything kind of is familiar to me because I live here. You get what I live here. I'm from here. I've been here. I want this to kind of, make sense. I want my kids to experience the same thing I kind of had when I grew up. But instead, right, you're being, I guess, inundated by cultures that she's saying that they're incompatible. There are a couple of guys. I've been to 140 countries. Australia is one of them, right? But I've been to and the reason why I'm saying this is there are definitely cultures that are incredibly incompatible with the West. Okay, things are just not the same. No type of similarities here, guys. Okay, there's nothing similar. The only thing similar is that the families are going to try to take care of their kids, and they want the best for their kids generally. That's basically the only thing, but how they go about it is generally different, very different. All right, and some of them are very incompatible with the West in general, and Australia is not too far off from what we kind of experience in the United States of America. Just different, just very different, and the women are very different. They're very different, but not that different. Basically, the Western women in general are kind of the same all around, but some are different, very different. And Australia is one of those places that are very different. Let's just say that there. Okay, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. Either way. But all right, listen, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I don't see any change at all coming to the West because the West is just going to consistently experience this type of thing. Everyone is running to the West. Guys, why? I mean, listen, how about this here? We can kind of break down the root cause of it, my overall perception, to give you my take on it at least. Guys, since 2019, when the world shut down, okay, the world's currencies basically plummeted, kind of for the most part here. And what I mean by that is the value of whatever you had saved in the bank is no longer worth what it was before 2019 because everyone started printing money by any means possible. Let's just say this here. In the West, the wealth gap absolutely just blew up. You have people that have never made money in their life making hundreds of thousands monthly, all right, in comparison to other people, right? So now we have a situation where we're kind of in like a hyper inflated environment. Let's just say this year, asset prices have gone through the roof. Guys, look at the price of silver. That's also has gone up, right, out of nowhere the last 6 years, guys. Also gold, everything went up, right? And so by doing this, a lot of these smaller countries, they utilize Western currencies in their countries because they're stable. But when this happened, right, what do you think happened to the people that are basically used to making like, $100, $200 a month, guys? What do you think happened to their money? It plummeted. So now all of a sudden, all of these secondary, these tertiary countries specifically, they can no longer afford to sustain themselves. So now what do you see? A bull run on the West, guys, because we're still making money, right? Truth be told, we're the ones making the money. So now you're starting to run into like a lot of economic migrancy, and guys, no country accepts economic migrants like that. Not like that, guys. I mean, not under the guise of asylum, at least, right? These are not asylum seekers. Like, we know, we have the numbers, guys. In the United States of America, 80 to 90% of people that have claimed asylum are going to be declined, denied, and deported. We know that number, right? Because, guys, just because you're poor in your country, or your money doesn't stretch as far as it did before, that does not mean you qualify for asylum. It just doesn't mean that. That's not a thing. You don't qualify for asylum. Asylum has like specific metrics, guys, right? And you don't fall under them. Is your government persecuting you for your belief system or who you are internally? No, they're not doing that. Oh, you just can't make money in your country. That's not, guys, that's not a, come on, bro. All right, that's not a thing. And then obviously all these governments are basically taking in all these people, then obviously giving them things that people in the host country are actually not receiving. How is it that people that are coming in that have never made a single cent or dollar in any of these countries, right, are being able to kind of utilize all of the systems they've never paid taxes into? All right, a lot of questions here, right? I'm just a messenger. I'm just trying to figure out the logic in this thing. But either way, I understand. All right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. If you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. But in the meantime, I will catch you guys later.